Hello and welcome to Heart Containers, a daily podcast where we discuss the latest Nintendo news every Monday through Friday. I'm your host, Rami Fawaz, and this is the episode for Friday, February 15th. I just want to start off by saying I have not been feeling very good these past couple of days. Today, or yesterday in particular, has been pretty bad. I'm a little ill here. I got a runny nose, I'm coughing, sore throat, so if I sound tired or my voice is a little bit off, these are apologies ahead of time. This also might be a quicker episode than usual because I'm not sure how much I can take. But before we get into all of the news, if this is your first time listening to Heart Containers, welcome and thanks for checking in. As you might expect, each show begins with a rundown of the top headlines from the day or days before, which means today we'll be talking about a few things. Tetris 99 has been data mined and we learned a few new things about what's to come for that experience. Hollow Knight got a sequel that was announced and a teaser trailer was shown off. We're going to discuss that. And lastly, I wanted to get into the important games and experiences that were released in the past few days, kind of do an overhead view of what there is to play and maybe get you excited or interested about what you might be playing this weekend. We'll also discuss the responses to yesterday's question of the day, which was all about rating Nintendo's Wednesday Direct, as well as introduce the new question of the day for today's show. As always, if you want to participate in the question of the day or give your opinion for any of the headlines that will be discussed throughout the show, you can easily do so by heading over to heartcontainerspodcast.com/question. It's quick, it's simple, and with a few clicks of the keyboard, your voice could be represented in a future episode. But let's just start off with today's daily Nintendo report.
Well, the wait is over. This is Nintendo DS. My body is ready.
We would like to play.
A way to make 3D games a reality, and it's called the Wii U Game Pen.
Tetris 99 was both announced and released on Wednesday exclusively for anyone who has a Nintendo Switch Online subscription. It was also mentioned during the Nintendo Direct that the game would be updated in the future to include various online events of some kind. Now, yesterday, the data miner who goes by the Twitter handle Oatmeal Dome, who has a history of data mining Switch titles, including Splatoon 2, had discovered a handful of new modes coming to the game that includes an option to finally play by yourself. If you kind of have ladder anxiety, I guess it's not ladder anxiety, but you just don't feel like playing against other people. Maybe you suck. That's me. I definitely suck at this game. Well, the first new mode that was discovered is called Team Battle, which is described as, quote, 2 giant teams clash, be on the winning side, end quote. To me, I think that probably means, what, 50v50? Maybe something like that. The next one is called Com Battle. That was the one I was referring to earlier. Quote, battle against 98 bots, defeat the machines, end quote. This battle mode will actually support both the traditional 99 battle as well as the newly discovered team-based ones, which means that you can play teams, you can play 99, you can do that online, but sooner or later you're going to be able to do that also by yourself against computers. And lastly, what was data mined was a marathon mode, which is kind of like a score attack mode that can go up to either 200 lines or endless. This was all data mined by Oatmeal Dome, looking at the app itself after he had downloaded it. So, I mean, this seems to be pretty good stuff. I'm excited about it. Ever since this game has launched, it's been the talk of the town. Not surprised because of how prevalent Tetris is in our society. I mean, it's the game that, regardless of whether or not you consider yourself a gamer, you can almost always find someone who is very invested in Tetris. I tried Tetris 99 a couple of times. It's fun. I like it. Tetris personally is not my puzzle game of choice. I'm a Puzzle League type of person, just because the feeling that I get when I play Puzzle League, like clearing the screen and swapping things back and forth, is unrivaled. But maybe it's just because I'm a bit biased and I've just played so much more Puzzle League than Tetris. And what that means is when I'm playing Tetris 99, I'm not very good, but I am having a lot of fun. And maybe this Com Battle thing or the new modes will actually help me out, train me, make me a bit better, and make me enjoy the game a lot more. I do really like this. This is cool. I'm glad that they're adding more to this. These are the exact type of things, and I talked about this yesterday too, that are going to help set Nintendo Switch Online apart from anyone who decides not to get the subscription. Last year, we were asking ourselves, is it really worth it? And these are the exact type of experiences they're going to make us say, yes, it's totally worth it. Also on Wednesday, Team Cherry teased that Hollow Knight news would be arriving very soon, and yesterday we found out exactly what they meant by that. If you don't know, Hollow Knight is a Metroidvania action-adventure title set in the dark and foreboding insect-infested world of Hollow Nest. The game released as a temporary console exclusive for the Nintendo Switch in June of last year, and has very quickly made a name for itself as one of the most influential indie darlings on the platform, right alongside Shovel Knight and Celeste. The developer for the title, Team Cherry, initially planned to release a substantial DLC for the game, but at some point along the way, it, quote, became too large and too unique to stay a DLC, end quote. So yesterday, the studio announced a full-blown sequel to the game titled Hollow Knight Silksong. Silksong is set to feature a new kingdom, movement abilities, items, enemies, and a whole lot more. There is a reveal trailer that truly highlights the new gorgeous, well, it's not gorgeous, but the gorgeous new, it's not new, but the gorgeous hand-drawn art style and sound design for the sequel. So in case my words are not really doing it justice, I encourage you all to go check that out. It's just a couple minutes long, and if you are at all interested in Hollow Knight, it's worth the watch. Silksong will be free to anyone who kickstarted the original Hollow Knight project, which is great news. Even if you kickstarted it for a different platform, they're actually allowing you to transfer that onto the Switch if you so choose. And it will also once again be a timed exclusive for the Nintendo Switch, a timed console exclusive specifically. It is coming out for PC, although there is no word on a release date. But if you look at the trailer, it looks pretty convincing. Like, it looks like they actually have a lot done. My take on that is just because it was supposed to be a DLC. DLCs don't typically take years and years and years to complete. So if the game launched earlier last year, a year later is a pretty reasonable time for a DLC to launch. Now, this is a bit more substantial because it's a full sequel, but I'm just saying it's not surprising that we see a lot in there. If they had originally planned to release it as a DLC, then this 2019 time window, middle of this year, would have been probably when they were thinking. That's just my estimation. I would hope and I would guess that we're going to get Hollow Knight 2 later this year, but it could be an experience that gets pushed off to next year, because if they don't say anything about a release date, then of course don't assume that we're going to get it this year. What this news has made me do, it's inspired me to go back and play Hollow Knight. Hollow Knight is one of those games that I let slip through the cracks, even though it looks so good. I played it on Steam for a little bit, held off when I found out that, oh wait, I can be playing it on my Switch, then played it on Switch, got to a certain point and just kind of like let the time roll, let the time go by. I just never got back to that game, but I loved everything about it, specifically the world building. You play so many Metroidvania games these days, and they're so heavily inspired by classics like Super Metroid and Symphony of the Night, but they sometimes forget to have their own identity, and Hollow Knight is not like that at all. It really has its own style, not just in art and sound, but look and characterization and the tool sets and the movement and the controls. Everything is uniquely Hollow Knight. It just stands out on its own, and that's something that I really respect about this game. For the last story of the show, I just kind of wanted to remind you all about all of the games and experiences that became playable over the past few days. The sheer volume of content had already made me forget of a couple of things, so hopefully this quick rundown will give you a decent idea of some of the games you want to check out later this weekend. So when it comes to full-on new games, both the previously mentioned Tetris 99 and Final Fantasy IX launched Wednesday night after the Direct. Again, to play Tetris 99, you will need a Nintendo Switch Online subscription, although I would guess that if you just did the trial, there is, I think, a 7-day free trial. If you haven't activated that yet, you could do that and download Tetris and play that for a little bit, and then that might be the deciding factor about whether or not you subscribe. I'm sure that's what exactly what Nintendo wants you to be thinking. After that, we got a couple of new updates to a few titles out there, one being Captain Toad Treasure Tracker. It added co-op capabilities to each level in the campaign, and now there's also a new special episode which will be fully released in March, but if you pre-order now, you can get early access to one of the new missions in the game, so that's something that you could be playing now. Brand new content for Treasure Tracker. The Nintendo Switch Online NES app also got a couple updates this week to include Super Mario Bros. 2 and Kirby's Adventure, although their official release was kind of overshadowed by the Nintendo Direct hype, so that those two are ones that I definitely forgot about. They're available, again, to Nintendo Switch Online subscribers. And lastly, a handful of demos are now available, including one for Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. That one was actually announced before the Direct, so it's completely slipped my radar. You can also play one of the early levels for Yoshi's Crafted World and 4 prototype missions for Daemon X Machina. Crafted World is set to release soon in March, while Ex Machina is scheduled to be yet another summer title for Nintendo. The second half of the year is stacked after what we found out this week. The second half for Nintendo is going to be a really big occasion. So I'm curious to know what you guys will be playing this weekend. Out of everything I just listed, I've already played some of Tetris 99. I want to get back in there. I want to see if I can do a little bit better. The highest number that I got in that game was, I think, 40. That means out of 99 players, I got 40th place. It's not very great. I wish maybe I want to break top 20. That's one of my goals. I did get the chance to play the Yoshi's Crafted World demo, and I'm actually pretty impressed with it. I was really happy with the experience. It was fun, and it got me excited for it in a way that just looking at the video footage of the game did not. So that's an option, although I'm pretty sure I'm done with it. And the other thing is that I played the first 2 prototype missions for Daemon X Machina. It's interesting. I'm not really quite sure how I feel about it. At times I feel like I'm gliding through the air like Iron Man and shooting things, and the level of customization that you have, whether it's purely cosmetic on your person or your ship. I mean, if you it's not really a ship, it's kind of like a mech, like a transformer, is really neat. You can design your character to look whatever way you want, and the color scheme on your mech is also whatever you want it to be. I of course went with like an Iron Man, whatever. You can call that boring if you want, but I think it's fun to be able to pretend that you're Iron Man, especially since Switch isn't getting a game like Anthem. So this is how I'm gonna live through this idea of flying mech suits through the air. That part is cool. That part surprised me. This idea that you can pick up various weapons and armors and attach it to your mech and kind of design it the way that you want to. Really interested in that. But the actual gameplay is the part that I'm not yet 100% sold on. The second mission had like this boss that I don't think you were supposed to be able to defeat. But what I noticed is that when you're playing a lot of that game, the boss and before the boss, there's just a whole bunch of stuff on the screen. Like I can barely tell what's going on. You're flying in an environment that has a lot of verticality to it, and then you have bad guys that are on the ground, and you have bad guys that are well above you, as well as bad guys that are at eye level. So there's all of these things going on. You're getting attacked by all sorts of height differences, so you can't really see all the time where you're getting hit by. So it's just very chaotic experience. Maybe it's the type of thing that after you play for a while you get used to, but that's something that I played, and that's also another experience that I'm probably going to finish out the weekend with. I want to get through all 4 prototype missions, especially because from the way they announced it, that's just a limited time type thing. And that wraps up all the news stories for today's show, but it's time to get into my favorite part of each episode, the question of the day. So yesterday I asked you guys, what did you think about the Nintendo Direct? Exactly, like, what were you hoping for, and did it bother you that we did not get a single update on Animal Crossing, Pokemon, or Luigi's Mansion? Basically, a lot of the established games that we knew were already coming, very few of them got updates on them, especially the ones that people seem to be the most excited for. Now, I didn't get any responses. That doesn't surprise me that much because this is still very early on in this podcast's life cycle, and I don't have that many viewers, but I will tell you what I thought about the Nintendo Direct. I thought it was great. I don't think they necessarily had to show games like Animal Crossing, Pokemon, or Luigi's Mansion too early. Those are games that are definitely going to be coming out, or not definitely, but more than likely going to be coming out much later in the year. Again, the current rumor for Animal Crossing was September. Pokemon is supposed to come out late, kind of around that November timeframe. We didn't know anything about Luigi's Mansion, but because it was not mentioned at all in this Direct, I feel like it's safe to say that it's not coming out in the first few months. So not talking about them is completely fine with me. You can save that for E3. You can save that for a future Direct. I think what they covered this time around was this all-encompassing, everywhere where they needed to hit, they did hit. They announced 2 out of the blue announcements. I mean, one of them was rumored on the first party. That was Super Mario Maker 2. The other one was not. That's Link's Awakening. So right off the bat, like 2 brand new first party experiences coming to Nintendo Switch this year. So they nailed it on the first party front, if I'm concerned, for what I'm concerned. Third parties, tons of third parties. We got confirmations for games like Assassin's Creed 3 finally, and also a whole bunch of JRPGs coming through the console. It's getting a lot of Japanese support. So that builds a lot of confidence in my mind for what's going on with the Nintendo Switch. I would have liked to see more Western representation in there. Like, I would have loved to see that Spyro Reignited trilogy show up, or anything from like the guys at BioWare, or more news from Activision Blizzard about Blizzard titles. I think they were happy with what happened with the Diablo 3 port, but maybe they're saving that for another time. Right now, I'm totally happy with the support that it is getting from companies like the JRPGs like Square Enix and Platinum, and also Nintendo published games like Marvel. So I think they're doing fantastic with third parties, or at least the Direct had good representation from first parties, great representation from first parties rather, good representation from third parties. I had a lot to say about Nintendo Switch Online without actually talking about the service. There's way more evidence that people should be sticking with that service, with games like Tetris 99 and Super Smash Bros. Announcing that there's going to be a substantial and ultimate update coming out in the spring. And then we also got some smaller titles, some eShop experiences that are coming later on that aren't going to get full-blown releases but are still worth playing. So all of that said, I think the Nintendo Direct kind of hit on all of the nails that it had to in order to give people faith for the Switch, at least over the next 4 or 5 months or so. So I thought this was a great Direct. If anything, it's just not even really a problem with the Direct. It's more of a question with what's going on with 2019. The only concern I seem to have is that everything that was talked about, or the majority of the things that were talked about, are the brand new titles are kind of coming out in the second half of the year, starting in the early summer around that June timeframe, and then moving forward from there. I wonder what that means for the now. I still don't feel like I'm getting a lot of brand new substantial experiences to dive into at the moment, and even over the past few, or the next few months, I really don't think that might be the case. It's more like small updates besides Yoshi, of course, and I wonder what that means for Nintendo overall. For today's question, the question for Friday, February 15th, it's going to center around the Link's Awakening announcement. Now that we're actually getting a remake of the Game Boy Classic, it seems like virtually any Zelda title is fair game to be modernized and brought back into today's conscious. So my question to you all is, which Zelda game do you think deserves to be the next title in the franchise to be remastered? If you want to participate in these discussions, make sure to stop by heartcontainerspodcast.com/question, where you can submit your answer to the question of the day, as well as provide your own question or any other opinions, thoughts, feedback for the entirety of the show. I'm going to be covering any responses as well as my response to today's question on Monday. You can also reach out to me personally on Twitter, where my handle is at RomeFawaz, ROMEFAWAZ, and let me know what you think. And that's everything for the show. Again, I apologize for any kind of weirdness that you may have heard throughout the episode, because I just don't feel good, man. Like, getting through this was actually kind of rough for me. I'm barely hanging in there. I'm sweating a little bit, ready to go take a rest after this. So I apologize for that. I hope by Monday it's going to be a lot better. You've just listened to Heart Containers for Friday, February 15th. Thank you so much for joining me today, and make sure you tune in next week, where we'll be back at it discussing anything going on in the world of Nintendo.